says she sees us.
Okay, perfect. So, I don't know if we'll do this every time, but tonight we are because we wanted to let you guys see what we have to talk about. But Zoom wouldn't let me live stream to the page. So, as we do as good Cincy consultants, we pivoted and here we are.
We pivoted.
Um, so yeah, we are talking about burnout tonight.
Yes, we are. That was the shake. That wasn't it. I'm sorry. That was
Renee, Tiffany goes,
we
no.
are. We are talking. That was for something else. Sorry.
Oh man,
So sorry.
you're so funny. Anywho, so we are talking about burnout. No
Yes.
matter what Tiffany is saying.
Yes.
And we thought it was an important topic to talk about because
Absolutely.
a lot of times I think we get so obsessed with what we're working on that we may not know where the break is.
Right.
It might be all gas pedal. I know that I am one of those people,
That is
and
accurate.
yes, we suffer from workaholism from all the jobs, and we have one pace, and that's fast, and we're very goal oriented, and that's great, and we're thriving. But this week, I'm not gonna lie to you guys, I just kind of, I don't know, I just was like, I want to do nothing. So having a happy balance in your business, in your personal life, in all the things is very important.
Mm-hmm.
So Tiffany is going to really kick us off on this. And if you guys have questions, just put them in the chat. If you're watching us, let us know you're here so we can say hello. And we're going to get going.
Right. Okay. So this all began because Dylan, Tabitha, and I were all discussing just how we were feeling at certain points. Specifically, one of us was feeling, and one of us said that we didn't like that word burnout, and the other two of us were like, "Hey, no, that's not where we're going. We're going to call it what it is and move forward." So we started talking about burnout and like how it progresses and what you need to do to get through it. And then as I was talking about it, I realized that I didn't know a whole lot about burnout, or at least I thought I did, because several years ago, I found this book in the Target, the Pleasant Place. And this is specifically talking more so about women. It covers how women experience burnout differently than men and why that is. It also has like a faith-based approach. So if this is something you'd be interested in, I highly recommend it. It was very good. Even the ever so, oh my God, my nail's dirty. How am I going to point at it? We're going to point out with my middle finger because that's the clean one. Okay. So our ever famous Brené Brown here, she liked this book. So anyway, definitely worth your time, I think. Definitely worth your time. But I was reading some articles online about, because that's one of my favorite things to do. Okay. I know it sounds weird, but it's not. It's not weird. It's fun. Okay. Moving on. So I was looking up burnout and I was like, I found so many fascinating things about burnout that I did not know. Like, one, there isn't actually a lot of medical information out there for burnout because it's actually not separated from stress. Like burnout and stress are very, I guess, in the medical world, used simultaneously. And what they're finding is that's not true. That's not true at all. So we um, experience different symptoms of burnout, but they categorize this down into three, and I thought this was fascinating. So the first one is exhaustion. Now we all hear that word and we're like, we know what exhaustion is, but the article really differentiates between mental exhaustion, physical exhaustion, and emotional exhaustion, which I thought was really interesting because you can easily identify when you're exhausted. Can you not physically? Would you guys say that? I would. I know when I'm physically exhausted, but I can't really gauge when I'm mentally exhausted or emotionally exhausted. And I was thinking about that. That got to me. I was like, ooh, Fun fact afloat. Let's find it. Okay. Anyway, so we're going to talk about exhaustion in that component because I thought it was fascinating. Okay. This is where we get really fun, guys. Okay. Everyone, get closer. Okay. Here it is. Exhaustion is the central symptom of burnout, which I just think, why are you getting, yeah, get in here, guys. Yeah.
She said get closer.
Because it's so exciting. I can't stand it. Okay. So it comprises a profound physical, cognitive, and emotional fatigue that undermines people's ability to work effectively and feel positive about what they're doing. And why is that fascinating? Because if we're going to be just completely transparent, honest, I would say that I start to see people commenting negatively within our community. And before reading this, I looked at that. I immediately thought of that when they were talking about this, because as you become exhausted, it's hard to stay positive about the things that you once loved, like that you once found joy in, because you feel like it's draining you and therefore everything's unfair around you. And so the blame game just starts going to town, you know? And so it really put a different light on those negative comments that we see. You know, it's not necessarily people are dragging Scentsy or dragging, the opportunity or anything like that. That's just, they might just be approaching things like, oh my gosh, these collections are trash. These scents that are coming out are so garbage. But that's really what's happening is that's just a surface level comment. And what's actually occurring that they haven't assessed is that they're burnout, and it's changed their obviously their cognitive and emotional state. So in a big picture, I love this sentence. It's so good. In a state of exhaustion, you find that you're unable to concentrate or see the big picture. Even routine and previously enjoyable tasks seem complicated, and it becomes difficult to drag yourself both into and out of the office. This is how burnout starts. So that was just beautiful. And I think that's the symptom of burnout that we're all used to hearing, right? Like exhaustion equals burnout, like those types of feelings. But it goes farther, and this is where I was talking to Dylan about this earlier because I was getting so excited. I'm like, oh my gosh, Dylan, listen to this. So the next symptom, these are symptoms of burnout, okay? The next symptom is cynicism, also called depersonalization, represents an erosion of engagement. It is essentially a way of distancing yourself psychologically from your work. Instead of feeling invested in your assignments, projects, colleagues, customers, and other collaborators, you feel detached, negative, and even callous. And I thought that that was amazing because persistent cynicism is a signal that you have lost your connection to, enjoyment of, or pride in your work. And again, that's back to those negative little, I don't want to call them Karens. That's just not sensitive. We got to think of it. Nancy, the negative Nancy's. Okay. The negative Nancy's come out to play, because inside Nancy hasn't been taking care of herself. Okay. That's what's happening. So moving on, the next symptom, because these
Hold
are
on,
the
real fast
three.
before you say that. It kind of reminds me of something I put on my story this week that says, "Be sure to take care of yourself, so the world gets the best version of
Yes.
you, and not what's left of you."
Yes, exactly. And that's so true too, because as you're putting out all of that positive, 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 I mean, I would love to say that I'm an endless tank, an endless little pool of positivity, but that's not the truth. Okay, like we all hit the bottom of that barrel and you're just scraping out what's left, and it might not be pretty or
Yeah.
positive. Okay, yeah. So moving on, cynicism. We covered cynicism. The next one is inefficacy, which refers to the feelings of incompetence and lack of achievement and productivity. And this is something we talked about. Like, this is the perfect thing. So like every time I thought about being stressed out and what that looked like, I'm like, oh, I'm just, I'm feeling exhausted. I'm stressed out. I'm feeling this way. I'm stressed out. Like all those negative things. But I fully expect the next day that I am going to be replenished, peppy little princess just popping out into the world. That's what I expect. But when I'm not, when I don't show up as that perfect little princess the next day, that's the sign that you need to be looking at and being like, okay, this is 2 days in a row. Okay, we're still reaching the bottom of the barrel here and experiencing these things. And I think that last one is a really good indicator because there's this, okay, it says People with this symptom feel their skills slipping and worry that they won't be able to succeed in certain situations or accomplish certain tasks. And it even goes further to point out that you start to feel like you were never capable of those things. Like the things that you've accomplished, you are so detached from them. It's like you don't even know how that was ever possible, and it's like questioning whether or not it ever even happened. And I relate to that so much. So, in all of this, it might seem negative. You're like, oh my gosh, that's a whole lot to deal with. But just to let you know, they go on to recovery and prevention, which I love both of those things because you take care of your car, you got to take care of yourself. You know, Tim gets mad at me. That's my husband all the time because I don't do oil changes. I'm talking very fast. I'm sorry. Just thought of that. Okay. Anyway, so my husband constantly is on me all the time about oil changes. He's like, you got it. When that thing indicates ding ding, you need an oil change. I'm like, well, that's not happening because you're trying to make me pay attention to a sticker. And the sticker says now, and the car has not said that. So I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing or who I'm supposed to be listening to. This is very confusing. I need a guide. So the same thing, I feel the same way about my body. I'm telling you guys, literally, I'm like, I need some information about what you need. But I think we were talking about this today. This is where it gets very personal because treating, first off, not only does burnout look different for every person, we all experience those three components, but you might be experiencing, a little less exhaustion and a lot more inefficacy. Like you're just questioning everything about your life in the state of burnout, but you're still productive, you're still showing up, you're still doing things, but you're just like in a very negative headspace, and that could be your burnout. And someone could just be fully exhausted and just looking at their life going, wow, my life's really draining and I'm exhausted, and I'm not knowing that that's burnout because they're not really really exhibiting those other two symptoms. So the same way that burnout is subjective, so is the recovery and prevention of it. But the main things that you need to be looking at is prioritizing self-care. Obviously, we all know that. Everyone hears burnout and they're like, oh, self-care. Like they go hand in hand. But self-care can look so different. Like we were talking today about how I utilize Animal Crossing as self-care. And if you guys don't know what Animal Crossing is, I'm so sorry. I just talked about it and then introduced this into your life. And I hope it goes no further than that. Unless you absolutely want it to, then I condone this and I will be your friend. I will give you my friend code. Okay, moving on. So I love Animal Crossing. There is something so magical to me about the end of the day when I have just honestly, it feels like I just crawled out of a battlefield. That's why I just like, let's get to the bed. And I'm not gonna lie to you, I'm gonna be very transparent. My life, which I'm sure lots of people's lives, are incredibly stressful. Okay. I have an autistic son, and I have two children. One's 9, one's 8. And most days, self-care is the furthest thing. And I will go 4 days without showering. That's where we are, okay? I will climb into my bed without brushing my teeth because the thought of doing that task, so simple, right? But like putting a toothbrush in front of me, putting toothpaste in it, putting it under the water, and putting it in my mouth is the farthest thing from my mind. So I will 100%, no shame, climb into a bed with a dirty mouth and a dirty bottom and all of it, and we just go to town. So Animal Crossing, I love it because there are rules, okay? You water plants and they grow, okay? And I know that every time I take them to Nook's Cranny, I'm going to get a specific amount of money, okay? I know in the mail there's going to be pleasant things every time. I know that every day I'm going to learn a new recipe, okay? And there could be some weird visitors on my island, but it is so pleasant, okay? I can plant flowers, decorate things, and I'm having a good old time. Life is not that way, okay? There's screaming, there's strange people in my inbox. I don't know about that. And then there's just all these responsibilities, okay? And they come out of left field most time. I don't even know what's happening on a regular basis. So, Animal Crossing brings some clarity, some routine, some just simple consistency to my life. And I love that. But that might look different for someone else. Like reading might be your joy, okay? Maybe you love to read about people getting murdered. I don't know.
Why'd we have to go so dark?
Because people really love crime thrillers right now.
I do.
I'm just saying, like that's where we're playing as far as the trends are going. So prioritizing self-care, and obviously you're going to hear those things. I know I like roll my eyes every time I hear someone say exercise and nutrition. We need to specify what that means, okay? I don't know if we're all on the same page, but over here, what do you mean by nutrition? Because a potato comes out of the ground and it tastes real good, and is that okay? Just wondering. Moving on. So you need social connections too. Very important. And that's hard because you're fighting against burnout. You're literally fighting. Burnout causes you to want to disconnect, not just, from like work and your life, like your connections, your friends. But that is incredibly important to get out of burnout. So we got to be doing that. Oh, and Tabitha, this one specifically for you. I'll read it to you, okay? By prioritizing good sleep habits, nutrition, exercise, social connections, and practices that promote whatever. I don't. Where is this going? Okay. Oh, and well-being. Sorry, like meditating, journal, and enjoying nature.
Oh,
That you did that
That's so
today.
sweet.
I did
Yeah.
do that today, and
Okay.
I do feel a lot better.
Right? So all those things lead to boosted energy, which is great. Next thing, you have to shift your perspective, which I think is incredibly important. But it says while rest, relaxation, and replenishment can ease exhaustion, curb cynicism, and enhance efficacy, they don't fully address the root causes of burnout. So you have to start looking at your life and making some changes, which I think can be very hard. But a beautiful thing they do all offer. So if you're looking at your life and you're like, I cannot fit another thing on my plate, then instead of trying to figure out what you're going to be eliminating or adding to your schedule, what we're going to do is take a 1 to 2 week period and where we are just simply observing what's happening in our lives. We're something, okay, it's not a spider or a demon, it's just a bag wiggling because of the fan. Just making sure. I will be okay. Crisis averted. Anyway, so you have to be able to look at your life and just observe, which I think bringing awareness to a situation is incredibly important because you can't fix a problem if you're not aware. Honestly, that's just the basics. Be aware of what's happening. So if you hear that you are burnt out, or you feel like after hearing the things that we've talked about that you are burnt out, and it seems overwhelming to try to pluck things from your life currently, that because you can't, I think it's also hard to prioritize when you are in a state of crisis, and burnout feels like crisis. So it's hard to figure out what isn't. Tabitha and Dylan and I talked about this previously about how I don't know where it is, guys, but you remember what I'm talking about with the 4 columns of like what's immediately
Yeah, the
important?
quadrants.
The quadrants, yes. And I think that when you're in a state of crisis, everything is in, and I don't know where that thing is. Everything is in that same quadrant of everything's important. Nothing can go. Oh, it's right here. Okay, 1 second. This might get violent. Oh, we made it. Okay. Anyway, so the first one is immediate. The next one is soon. This is what mine looks like, guys, and my friends helped me fill it out. So here is immediate, soon, future, and later. But when you are stressed and burnt out, everything is in this column. So it's really hard to pick something up and move it and say like, oh, I don't need to do this right now. This is a future thing. This isn't a now thing. So instead of trying to make those decisions, we're just going to be simply observing and recording where we're at on that. So then the next one is reduce exposure to job stressors. And this is where Dylan and Tabitha and I had a little bit of a moment where we were talking. You guys remember earlier when we were talking about how we wanted to talk about burnout, but Tabitha, what were you worried about in talking about this?
So I think a lot of times people will classify anything and everything as burnout to give them an excuse not to work their business. They're like, oh, well, I did this yesterday, so I'm burnt out today. I need to take a me day. And then the next day it's like, oh, I need to take a me day. And then the next day I need to take a me day. And next thing you know, you've not done anything for the
Mhm.
last week because you're classifying that as this is burnout, where you do need to make sure that you're moving in a positive direction. There's no, and I'm really sorry about the whole like on my desk thing. It's fine. No burnout for Modus.
No.
You have to make sure that he really needs to go potty, and he doesn't have two parents. Like there's one out there that could have happily taken him out. Instead, he came to my door and started yelling at me.
Right.
You know how that is.
Yes.
So we can't make the excuses to where we never do the task at hand and keep putting it off. We have to make sure we're still getting done what has to be done, but we're still taking care of ourselves at the end of the day, because we are the most important thing that we have, and you can't fill from an empty cup. So we have to find that balance and not to make excuses where you're not working your business, you're not showing up for yourself, and you're not getting anything done, and you're just constantly making excuses.
Exactly. So instead of saying something like, oh, I'm definitely burnout, I've definitely overwhelmed, I've reached my capacity, I'm going to do nothing. Instead of doing that, you would look at the situation, your businesses, and find out what those vital actions that you can take are, those things that have to get done no matter what.
Exactly.
And
the non-negotiables in your business.
yes, and that's where we're putting energy. All the other stuff, the stuff that I want to do, that start doing this in my business. Oh, this person did that, I'm real, like I would like to incorporate that, or all those things are non like essential things to your business at this time. So but that is definitely something, because I know I'm guilty of that. I 100% am. Like when I start feeling completely overwhelmed, I will start to go through all of the things that I need to do in my business. And those needs are all like, oh, I want to send out this, I want to send out that, I need to make these samples, I need to do that. And all that stuff might be important, but you know what could be better? Follow up. Like if instead of stressing myself out with all of those nonsense tasks, if I did the vital form of, which is follow up, like literally follow up is going to be that consistent thing that I go back to. It's like I could do all of these things that are like fun things, but also stressing me out because my life's stressy. Follow up. We just return back to that instead of saying I'm doing nothing.
I think if we like simplify this too, to not relate just to like a Cincy business, but if you think of your own home, right? Like if you think about the space that you live in, and say you wouldn't clean it for one day, what's going to happen?
Yeah.
Probably not too much, right? Like it's just going to get a little bit dirtier. It's not a big deal. But say you go 2 weeks or a whole month or 2 months or 3 months, all of us have been there. Like when you go 3 months, trying to come back and clean all of that mess is just a disaster. So what you're talking about a little bit is about like your daily methods of operation. Like even if you have to come back and do the very, very minimum, whether that be just follow up or connecting with 2 customers, attending this with us, like any of those things that are very, very vital to your business are really important. But that's like connecting it back to the home. That's like saying tonight I'm going to do dishes. Tomorrow night I'm going to put away the laundry.
Right.
The following night I'm going to do this. If we put them into small steps of saying, I just want to get this one thing done because it's so important to keep my house this clean, then it just makes everything a lot easier, right? Like you don't have to worry about the whole mess 2 months later. You're just worrying about one thing at a time, taking it one day. I can't do this today. I can't focus on this today. So what can I focus on for 10, 15 minutes max? Just to get something done for my business today. And that's perfectly okay. We've all been there. I do that all the time. I have a sticky note right here of lists that I wanted to complete today, and that's all I wanted to do today because that's all I had in me to do. So I said, I'm going to write down, I have 4 things on here, 2 of adding bars to club, one of the hardest things to ever do, right? Like that's so easy. But the 2 other things were a little bit time consuming. So I gave myself 4 things to do today. And that's it. And so tonight when I go to bed, I'm going to be so proud of myself because those 4 things are completely done. And then I don't have to worry about it. And then the next day I feel a little bit better and I can say, okay, I did my list yesterday. Let's do it again today. And you start feeling better and better every day.
Yes, that was a beautiful freaking way of putting that, Dylan. I loved. That was so good. I
don't know where that came from, but that was bomb.
I know. Like I was like, oh my God, that's literally perfectly described the entire thing. Yes, 100%. Dylan, I love you. That was beautiful. Okay, so the next category, you really need to reduce your stressors. And I think this is really important where setting boundaries come in. It is incredibly important to burnout, like this book. In this book, one of the biggest, longest section, like talking about, was half of, I don't even know the statistic, but it was high, that our burnout comes from lack of boundaries. And I know that's definitely for me. And it's, it's maybe like a friend calls or someone calls and they're on the phone forever and you're not having that boundary with yourself, like with the pleasures, oh, it's fine. I haven't talked to them. That was maybe not the right word. Okay. I'm not talking about you guys. I promise that we're productive. Okay.
You're talking about me.
Talking
I
about
just
all
feel
of
like
us.
shots were fired in multiple different
Yeah.
directions right now.
No, I'm just saying, like, you have Dylan, his 4 things that he wrote down, which I also did. And then, oh, it's right here. Thank God.
It's
Okay,
funny.
so
I do that too in my business.
yes. So this is actually very helpful. Like, this was the first day that I like just wrote down because I'm an Enneagram type 1.
If anybody
Uh
didn't know that.
yeah, type 1, organization, all the things, rules, goodness. That's me. That's where I play. Perfectionism. Hello, how are you? But it says in Enneagram type 1, wing 2, it said these people try to accomplish way too many tasks in a day. That was shots fired right at me directly. Point blank range too. So I did something new today, which has never happened, where I just wrote down literally 4 things. One was an idea that I had. And then I was playing with the highlighters. That's what those things are. But that's not important. So I wrote those things down and then I executed them and it felt so good to accomplish those tasks. But I also set a boundary there, like, because boundaries can look like all different things. Like, normally Tiffany would write a mile-long list, and they're aware of that, because that's why things look like this, and then we just keep adding. And it's like, okay, none of that's important. So setting a boundary with myself, like, no, we've already tried that route. We're not doing that anymore. We're doing something new. Setting boundaries with people, like I love my mother to death. I love my mother, but she calls me every single day and wants to talk to me every single day, all day for a long time. And I would love to do that. But when I do that, I don't get anything else done because I'm talking to my mother. And so it's not that you're setting that boundary to hurt someone, you're setting that boundary so you can still accomplish the things that you need to accomplish and take care of yourself, which is a prime difference because boundaries don't automatically mean negative, which unhealthy people could look at them like that. Because I set a boundary and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm telling someone no, which is, you got to do that. It's important. Setting business hours in your business, setting those specific times where you're doing something to hold yourself accountable, but also to, shut off so you have that time with your family, that kind of self-care. That is another way of setting boundaries.
To
Seek
add to
out.
that real fast,
Yes.
this is a conversation I've had a lot that's come up on my one-on-one coaching calls. And we've talked a lot about, sometimes your kids, if you have children that are younger, they don't understand that because mommy's home, she's not working with me or playing with me. Like, what does that mean? You have to let them know what you expect from them. And even if you need something that's symbolized there, as far as like setting an alarm that they know, okay, for the next hour, you can't bother me, like, unless the house is on fire or someone's choking. Like, I need 60 minutes of pure uninterrupted work to be able to get this done. Obviously, if your kids are like, 1, you probably shouldn't do this, but they, the toddler age or older or whatnot. But a lot of times, if you just give them that expectation that even if it's only 10 minutes, whatever you can get away with, they have an alarm to look at. You're setting that expectation and that boundary with them that they can't come in there and run in and eat snacks open and all the things. This is when I have to work. And then showing them why. Did you take them to the movies? Then show them that you paid for it with your Scentsy money. Did you pay for a family vacation? It's so important for you to show your family how Cincy is blessing them and utilizing that. Jenny, yes, you're not quite there yet, but you will get to that age to where your kids won't need to be up your booty 24/7, and
Right.
you can set that expectation with them. But I think we get frustrated a lot because we don't show our family what it is our goal is. And so we don't create the boundary around our work hours, and then we're frustrated, and that doesn't help our mental health because we've never told them what we expect from them, and then we're just mad because we're mad that they didn't know what we wanted them to do. So
Right.
just a little tidbit to add into that.
Yeah, I think that's incredibly important because, you know, since he does take time, it is a business and you have to put in that effort and that energy to then get something from it. And if your family is one seeing you put in the work and like they're missing time from you, but they're not seeing a benefit from it, that can cause obviously some friction. So definitely I think that's good. That's beautiful. Showing them what Cincy is doing and then this is why I have to invest the time because it brings about these things. So definitely important. And then the next one is seeking out connections, which again, like I said, is really hard when you're experiencing burnout because you're trying to disconnect yourself from others and disconnect yourself from the things that you once had enjoyment in. But positive relationships are also learning opportunities, I think. So I know that just in the time that I've spent with my friends that I talk to on a daily basis, I have eliminated so much stress in my life and eliminated, you know, potentially getting burnout or experiencing more of burnout or falling further into burnout because my friends by having connections with my friends, they're able to identify like a change maybe in me, but also I think that they can having a different perspective into a deep darkest situation that you're going through. Like Dylan, for instance, this is a great example. My son Emmett repeats Goodwill on a daily basis. It does not stop, okay? And when I say that, I mean that. It's like someone broke the record player and it is carried with you at all times. It's just Goodwill 5,000 times. And that was causing issues. Like it is frustrating when it happens so many times. One second, guys. What's happening? What is this? Okay, just stay over there. Okay. Okay, can I play? Yes, sure. Yes. Okay. Oh my gosh. He just kept coming in and he was just standing by the door and I was like, I don't know what to do. Okay. So anyway, I had this problem and it was Emmett and he was getting frustrated because, you know, his all for his reasons, he was getting frustrated and I'm getting frustrated because that's all I'm hearing on a regular basis is Goodwill constantly. It's almost like I'm going slowly insane. And Dylan was like, what if you told him that instead of saying, no, we're not going to Goodwill, what if you said, we go to Goodwill on Sundays? So it's creating an expectation for Emmett, like, okay, cool. It's Tuesday now. So it's not necessarily like I'm saying no, I'm saying we go to Goodwill on Sundays so that he has that to look forward to and he does understand days of the week. And it has helped so much. How long have I been dealing with this issue? A long time. Okay. And Dylan heard it one time and offered a solution for it. Had I not been communicating with my friends about the things that were going on in my life, I would have never found that solution. So seeking connections is vital for getting out of you can't and also you can't just like unload on people and expect them to fix all your problems. That's definitely not what's happening here, okay? We're not doing that, okay? But you, by sharing your experience as a human being with another human being that care and you both have respect and care for one another, it's a great place to get a new perspective on a situation that you've been in for a long time to find a new solution or some, at least something to try. I seriously, I love having lots of people to bounce things off of, you know. Anyway, continue on. So, in conclusion, you I think that a really important thing to realize too in burnout is that all these things are happening, but it's not forever. Like burnout's not a permanent state of being, and there should be some comfort in that, you know. It's not a death sentence to be going through burnout. And your business, I think something Cincy has constantly installed in us is that, you know, your business is meant to be there for you. Like it's your business, and you can pick it up when you're ready to pick it up, and you can also put it down when you're ready to put it down. But what we're not doing is permanently just setting it down like, oh, we're done with that. Ooh, also good tag, guys, look. And if you didn't know, we have a mental health awareness collection at this time. But all good stuff, literally. Honestly, I really do think this is great.
It was
That was my
great.
favorite.
That was good.
Right. And they have really great resources online, guys, for burnout, not just like catching burnout after it's occurred, you know, checkpoints, like quizzes you could take to check in with yourself to see where you are. Then you could start, you know, doing the preventative measures, I think.
I think
Yeah.
a good option. Sorry, Tab.
I
think you were.
I just said yeah. That
Oh,
was
okay,
it.
good. Okay. I think another good thing just in the Cincy world is we do have a really good community here. So if you
Yes.
ever feel like you are stuck or you don't know what to do because you have stepped away for too long, or you need that break and you don't know how to step away, please reach out to any of us. I think we will all love you with open arms and tell you exactly what you need to do to make sure the right systems are in place, so that way when you do come back you feel prepared, because
Yes.
rest and recovery is the best thing that you're going to get, but
Mhm.
we want to make sure you have all those systems in place so your business is still running without you having to be tied to it all the time. So please feel free to reach out if you need to.
Yeah. And if you need real help, Christy up here, this one. Well, she's up there for me. I don't know where she is on your screen, but
Or
everyone point where Christy is for you right now. Okay.
Why me?
Chris, what?
So why are you pointing at me?
I'm pointing at you because Christy's also really helped me identify where the energy suckers are too. Like what I'm doing in my life that's not serving me. And like I said, like the Cincy community, I think is like just having people in your life, that's really good for people to identify. And I have lots of people within the Cincy community that do that for me, and I'm really grateful for that. But if you want to like a no excuse, no hold back, very blunt, but for Tabitha this and this for Dylan. So yeah, that's Christy will do that for you. Just send her a message and she'll be like, and here's your problem. Yeah. Seriously.
Well,
This was freaking
this was great. I'm so glad we did this. I'm glad we jumped on a Facebook Live. We're gonna
right.
look into alternatives for the Zoom call, but it
Yes.
may just literally be if you want to watch Work at Wednesday, you're gonna have to be on the Zoom or catch the recording when I upload it to YouTube, because
Right.
I do want to go back to Zoom. But there were so many people that jumped on tonight, so I do love that. And I hope you guys will continue to watch these resources that we pour into you every single week, because this is stuff we are doing in our business. We're trying to help you kind of take shortcuts, honestly. And we don't know everything, but our brains are better together, and we are
Absolutely.
able to create something that has been very successful. So appreciate you guys coming on to another week, and next week will be Jammy Time with our SSD, so make sure you catch the link for that. And actually I think Dylan and I are presenting
Yes.
next week on Jammy Time, so you still get to see our faces.
Yes. And if you've heard them do a training on their party style that they've done previously, I would still not miss out on Jammy Time, because they've both been putting this party to the test. And I think that there's new information to be had every time that we have the conversation.
Yeah,
so
we're definitely going to add to it, so it will be different a little bit than the last few times that we have trained on it. So
yes. And Christy, you should come too and talk about your experience, because you're also using the party style right now, aren't you?
Yeah.
Okay.
yay.
See perfection.
All right, love you all. Thank you so much. And definitely let it. Oh, reactions are now enabled.
Oh
Yes.
my gosh.
With so many
Christy,
hearts.
Okay.
thank you.
All right, love you guys. Bye.